everybody please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
One moment while I go turn on the microphone, so I realize I'm not on.
Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call to order the Lower Suffolk Township Communication Committee meeting for October 15th, 2025. First order of business is to approve the minutes from the September 17th, 2025 meeting. In front of you, everybody should have a copy of the minutes. Thank you, Rob, for putting this together. Are there any comments or edits or anything else anybody would like to add? Hearing none, we have a motion to approve the minutes as printed in front of us.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Harry, thank you. Motion second. There's a second.
I'll second.
Terry, I second. By Terry, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Very good, thank you. Moving on, our next order of business is to call for public discussion or visitor comments. We always ask anybody from the audience, anybody on Zoom, if they have any comments and wants to participate, and of course, any members of the committee as well. I would like to throw out a thank you to John for running last month's meeting while I was unable to attend in a tremendous way. Great job. Appreciate that. Moving on is next order is the old business. We have a request form for printable materials update on distribution. Unfortunately, we have not gotten them out yet, as I have informed the board as well, but hopefully John and I will schedule something. We're hoping to do that today, and if not, we'll do that hopefully this evening or for the weekend. I just plan to get that out. Grace, anything else you'd like to add to it? I know they're printed all ready to go.
They are, yep. And I will.
I'll wait with you to make sure we pick them up. That's when we go. Any other questions or comments about that?
I do, so we're just going to facilities right now to, right?
We're going to get, yes.
You were talking about going to businesses too, like having.
That's what we discussed. I'm glad you brought this up too, because I would like to talk about that. I think that just for anybody looking as well, the idea right now is to get these facilities almost as a trial basis, kind of see how it works. And we don't want to be over, not to say that over flooded, but we want to make sure that people are able to receive materials. So we want to make sure we don't want to have too many materials that we might be able to volunteer with members of the committee, just bring them to facilities. So until we can get a great process like that, I think that's the intent. We want to try it with facilities, and yes, ideally get it to businesses. I hope, and I was talking to a few businesses, it's kind of a little often, it goes together here, bear with, but just a few, one of the things that we did in the early communications, did this actually at our last, at the Arlesville market, and we can update that last too. But a lot of people were saying, a lot of people are out and about, a lot of people were talking to people more again, as trying to get back into the world. It feels like we've kind of been in there, like a lot of people are saying, it's really glad to seeing everybody again, talking, what's going on with this. And some businesses like the idea, as we explored in the beginning, of hanging with your archives, hanging our stuff at the business to encourage people to be involved. We voted originally on this, say, oh yeah, we saw that thing, it's great. That's the idea. So yes, hopefully we can tie that all together. There is a need.
We may have to make some tweaks to the form then, because it was more like facility related and not business related. But we'll look at that once we do the trial period or there's already.
And just officially, there's no set date, there's no set time. It's kind of, we already will pen it out, see how it goes, and hopefully maybe at the very next meeting, we'll have something else we need or wait 2 weeks as well. But I think that's important to mention too. Any other comments on the printable materials? Thank you everybody for your help. Our next order of business is the legacy website search results update. I did watch the meeting and learned that this is the old website. Hosts survey, the pages are still out there. So in a Google search, you would find perhaps something that you can click and brings you not to the most updated website. That's what I'm saying about. Grace, do we have any updates on that?
We do. So the website itself still exists. but the content of the website is gone. So Holly and I investigated the situation because as I mentioned at the last meeting, the host was Civic Live and, they've been sold so many times and they've become different company over different company and so they're no longer a website host as a company, so we could actually still log into that old website, the credentials, webpage was never taken down. We're no longer paying for it, but technically if you wanted, we could have two websites because they're just not managing it whatsoever. So nonetheless, Holly went through and, disabled all of the pages, I think, so now it will come up as, it may show on your Google search, like those hyperlinks of web, page titles, I guess, in that initial search, but if you click on it, there's going to be nothing there. If we think it's necessary, maybe we can type it, we can try and redirect them to a new website.
That's what I was just wondering.
So I kind of had to speak that out loud for that, yeah, so I will see what we can do there,
This way people think the township's doing this and this, if they just go to the old one, there's nothing there.
that was the step we took, but we can definitely try and take it one step further.
I would hope, I agree with you, I didn't take that. That's very true, I would hope if I would think Maniac is something wrong, I'll search again, possibly then leading to the correct one. That's good thought process. I think, yes, if there's any way to kind of redirect, even just township that's moved here.
Right.
Thank-
Sorry, now it just says, sorry, the page you requested cannot be found, so. That's what you get.
And that's natural going to work its way off of Google. I think the big problem was that it was responding with legitimate and official booking content. And so it would still get caught up as soon as that page is not found, then it just, all the search engines are just gonna dispose of it. And what you'll have maybe left over is links from people's old websites or something that was a PDF, incorporated in PDF and then saved somewhere. And just hasn't been updated.
That's probably what our current website developer thought was going to happen, so he was equally confused as to why it was not disappearing, assuming that our old website would have been taken down, that just.
Any other questions regarding that? Any other questions regarding the website, or on the topic of the website? I had one question, I know it was brought up for Rob, I noticed this often, but I didn't really think about it, but you know, so that was what I do, but for the first time, when you do revisit the website, it pops up to sign up for the newsletter, which is great, constant contact and all. Is there any way this website goes, no, not, I'd like it popping up, especially the first time visitor, but it does, for the usuals, it just becomes like, oh, click.
Yeah.
I'm curious.
Within the settings of the website, that there's only a turn on, turn off function. I'll revisit that and see if there's is it the cookies that manage?
I don't know if it would, yeah,
Like-
the address or number, I
Yeah.
don't know, it's in that part, but I was just curious.
Yeah, I can talk to Bill. Bill is the man who runs Catapult Web Design, so I will ask him.
I think, from a technical perspective, it would put a cookie on whatever browser you were in, and he said, hey, don't remind me again, done.
Right.
And then check that to see if it should display that, you know, I'd rather have people show up. And the people that aren't subscribed, be subscribed,
Right, and
then
then,
somebody get mildly annoyed.
and another thing too was, great point, because whether or not we want to just do that, again, we think it's right, but another thing that happens is somebody comes to our website, ideally for the first times, we all are trying to get people there. They're not gonna sign, they might not necessarily sign up right away, hit no thanks. Look up what they need, think, oh wow, look at this website, I really explored it, go back to it, and I'm not happy out. So someone's gonna push point too, as I say it out loud as well. I'm just curious. Thank you. Any other questions regarding the website? new business was. AI for meeting highlights, thoughts and feedback. So I did have the opportunity to watch last month's meeting on YouTube. I encourage anybody watching this to watch presentation of the AI. The AI, what we call that, the feedback or the summary. AI summary.
Like a summary extraction.
Right. I was impressed. I was, again, I'm constantly don't enjoy being impressed, but I'm always impressed by what's how it does happen. What I did like is the simple thing that you brought up, which was we turned it down from we said about 56 minutes and knocked it, 55 minutes to 6 minutes. I think that from a perspective away from this capacity, that would be what I would want to see. I don't want to watch, if I'm gonna watch another township meeting in another township, in my capacity, I might watch it a little more out of curiosity, but I just want a quick update. I don't want to show it. So I did find that fascinating, found that helpful. I wanted to hear everybody else's thoughts. I know you, the emotion, so we, everybody, kind of moved that last time as well. Terry, did you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I did watch it too, I thought it was really interesting, it's really a great idea. My only concern was, is there a way at the end of it, if people wanna watch the full meeting, they can go to the full meeting then? Like, is there a way to?
Depends on how you present, right? So if it was on that site there. That particular site has a link on the bottom to the full YouTube, just as part of the way that they've set up the page. If you were to put it somewhere else, like on the township website, that you would need to set that up independently.
Okay, so for people to access them, then there's two ways, either through the township website or through the.
Right,
Yeah,
if somebody made a summary video and posted it up and used like a video or even put it back on YouTube, then it's up to the person that's doing the posting to maybe put the link to the other one in the comments or the description of it. So, there are some things that are automated and then you gotta come back to basics and be like, hey, if you're putting a video somewhere and you want people to go back to the bigger one, that's maybe something you have to do with YouTube.
Okay.
But if, one of the things that we're just trying to emphasize, is these tools in general are out there, they are not going away. And, they reduce labor, the cost is it's flat now, right? That's not gonna be true forever, but the labor is still gonna be less than somebody spending that 60 minutes going through and manually doing these processes.
And it could be a great opportunity to see how it works before it becomes something with we have an idea, does it work? And, what reception are we getting? Are we getting more involvement with residents? What's the feedback we have? I think the only thing too is, I know it says, here's the highlights and whatnot. I think, I like the idea of just quick summary of as well. So, without saying the highlight, just for any reason, some people come and want to feel differently about one thing or another thing on the agenda. And, just to keep it completely unbiased, just, here's this happened, this happened, this happened. That'll be the only comment on that. And I think it kind of does that. It finds the highlight itself, but.
I mean, you're describing minutes of
Yeah.
video, right?
Yeah, yes,
There's that threshold of like the full thing,
Mhm.
minutes somewhere in the middle, and then the highlights where you would
Yeah.
find like, not objectively, but subjectively, the most interesting things that may have occurred.
And as I said, it's too, it occurs to me that, we'll have those opportunities to see if it's something we want to explore more, okay. Which ones seem to do that? What we want, do we want to have, because what would be cool now be on them too, though, but if you're watching, let's say, the firefighter highlight. Rather than watch the whole firefighter highlights, here's the clip, here's a little bit, clip here to hear the whole thing, and I'm sure eventually it'll get it to be something like that. But I think that would be interesting. Grace, any feedback from the township regarding this? You guys, I'm sure, have discussed things well.
I did talk to Joe, the township manager, and a few other members of the staff, and they're all willing to try it as long as we had the capabilities to edit after the fact, just in case it missed something. And I think the first few times around, like Joe would want to watch it through, but it's, at this point, got the okay, it's just a matter of, I will find a, board meeting to test it with. Been a little busy at the township office, so sometimes, I couldn't get to this one this week,
No worries.
or this month, but
That's great, it's great to hear that's positive communication that, I look forward to seeing where this goes, or bringing this to the attention. Any other comments or questions you learned from the AI?
You can have my vote for pushing as far and as fast as we can with that. I really do think that those types of technologies are really important to bring there. And then, the highlight, there's an attention deficit for folks, and we're trying to, give them the signal for the noise. So if we can give highlights easily to folks and certainly video tidbits that we should see.
I heard you mentioning, on YouTube, almost like a video or TikTok, that really is what it is, and Terry sometimes what they'll do is take a YouTube video and just literally have another video, or I'll say altogether, which is just a sample of that. When you click that video, and bring it to the full video as well. Still, those things.
Yeah.
Sometimes the person doing whatever video, they're gonna put the highlight of their video just in that clip, so that's usually all that people see. And it is, you're right, as short attention span, I think I'm in agreement with this, it's something I could definitely mention. If anything else at our next, general meeting on what we're working on, something we're looking to, it's worthwhile, I'll make sure. Definitely mention that, well, thank you.
Say one more thing, because we can move on, but I think one of the interesting things is, as I go through the meetings, there's, sentiment trackers. You'll see a lot of, the meetings that come up in the news, they'll all have like argumentative, all these adjectives, and I go through Lower South and I see routine, collaborative, informative, formal, and it's like just a good vibe in most of the meetings that come here on there, and I think that's something that needs to get out and be communicated, like, I agree, if there is a good, formal, informative, collaborative vibe at this table, no matter who's sitting here.
Absolutely, and we might have, go different ways in the end, but in the end, we're all, that was a great discussion, and thank you for that input, and truly, I learned from my colleagues. That's first I can get, I think it is great to say. Agree. Anything else to add to that? Okay. Moving on, our next order of new business, quick reference guide for zoning development. This was discussed. I think, was that on the cuff? Well, that was very good, I like that suggestion as well, Harry, would you like to explain this a little bit more as well? Yeah, you do.
So the thought process that we had in that discussion was trying to find ways to easily communicate what's going on with the zoning development. Highlights, I guess, actually, kind of an appropriate theme. It is sort of the highlights that rather than having to dig into lots of detailed individual reports, is there a way to sort of summarize this so we can get around what's going on very easily in the township.
I know you mentioned infographics and stuff like that, I think that's great, anything from. So I guess, maybe that's supposed to add to, please, but what we need to, or what we can decide is how will we want to do something, like this, what we want to say, a QR code that just takes us somewhere, not everybody has the access to that, as we know. As at the Harlesville Market, again, reminded that not everybody is familiar with QR codes. As you get more familiar, I just say it's not that, I'm not going to be surprised by any age or whatnot, because some people you don't want them, but they'll come up and like, oh, okay, you know what you're doing. Somebody else, it's a QR code. Say, I don't know what that is. Oh, okay, let me explain here, but anyway, I agree, if we want something like that, how do we want to present this, make it appealing? Where do we go from there?
well, if it's a matter of explaining the subdivision and land development process, which is, I think, another thing that we touched on last time, and I believe it was Rob who sent me some examples, I'm not sure. the whole group was CC'd or not, but some really, really good examples of neighboring townships. Explaining in an infographic how the development process worked, because it goes through a ton of different steps. Some people may be under the impression that the township has the ability to stop something in its tracks just because we're not a fan of it, but there's also some as is, or, developers have rights and whatnot. So something to explain that process, I think, would be really helpful in the newsletter that gets printed. And I would personally be okay with that taking up an entire page, if that was going to be something that is super helpful to a lot of people. I can't even say that I fully understand the process. I don't do anything in that department, so, I think that people have a lot to learn from that, and once we get that set up, I did send your examples, Rob, to Mike and Patty and Holly, to take a look at. Again, it's just a really busy time of year, so I do hope that we'll get around to that soon. So I guess the next newsletter would hit the streets in, early spring. I think we're gonna start bumping up the newsletters a bit, so. That was just one thought, sorry for the tangent,
No, that's great.
but I think taking the whole page would be appropriate.
This is how we get our good ideas, is by talking.
Yeah, so in the last meeting, I think we had come at it from a couple of different directions. IM development, for example, gives everybody an idea of what's happening. I think most people who are not engaged with the development process and then are suddenly engaged with the development process become that way because their neighbor is developing something. Right, and at that point, they'll identify where it is and they'll have. There's, I think, 4 different states that are in IM development that you can remind me what they are if it becomes relevant, but. To understand what that means and what influence or ability to speak to that issue that individual or group has at that point in the process. I think even if somebody looks at it and goes, oh, well, I missed this deadline, but it's obvious looking at this graphic here that this is where this project is, and these are the opportunities available after that, or this is just how they all work. And you're not gonna be in the position to take in 10 or 20 pages of saldo. But you might take a look at something that's got some arrows and flows on it and say, okay, I understand, I'm here, or this project is here right now, and this is how things are gonna move for me in the future. And I think any kind of thing like that helps people be reassured that it means they don't show up here angry.
And well said, very well said. I think just to even elaborate what you said, oftentimes when people are aware of what's happening is that stage when you said, okay, we're developing right now, it is usually to have, and I don't want to say that there could have anything could have been done, but it's it already had all the motion, all the talk, all the discussion that they could have listened or been part of, understood, did. And we do mail things out, but perfect example, my kids are at my sister's Halloween party tonight, but as I found the 3 invitations that were mailed, sitting in my neighbor's garden the other day, right, wait a minute, guys, fell out of the mailbox, so, I understand things like that happen. It's like, so if somebody doesn't vote, we'll need to bring up, we'll make sure we hit them at all spots, but. Harry, great idea, I'm glad you brought this up, this is something that's well said, some of the things that we explored ways to kind of pop on what Grace said, as a community, as Harry, you may remember as well. Originally, we loved the idea of some videos, maybe a quick little video. We emphasized quick because we looked at neighboring townships videos, we also took them, and there were some great ones. But there were some where, after a while, I lost complete interest. I mean, it was a 21-minute video. It's not neighboring us, but it's local. And it's great to talk about the historics. It covers everything on the website, but in a 21-minute thing, there was one thing we all emphasized, something quick. So yeah, ideally, hopefully, again, I've asked the public works if they want to volunteer, but we can't ask somebody who wants to get a job to work in public works, and then we'll go in front of the camera and tell everybody, hey, this is what this means, and this is what we're doing, and. You know, I tried to convince Mike a little bit here, and we explored that, maybe that's something else we could go back to. I don't think we had a quick snippet video, we found sample videos, but oftentimes, just so we know that if they have a logo. Or another township would just be offered to show another township explaining it. But there were some great things that explained some of the early processes for when we put the QR code, which kind of was an idea that we came in as well, put that on the signs. That's when I first said, that will get you on there, our public works, but you know, we don't want to force anyone in front of the camera. We did find something that explained the process of the case symbol. And it took a little bit to find it because if it was a company doing it, they'd put their logo down, you know, construction or this or that. So if we can find something online, it's already there that breaks it down, that isn't biased, just informative thing, I think that's helpful, or maybe even see the staff instead of too many kind of quick videos for everybody, you know, I think. That's something, and of course, one of the questions we had is how will we do that? I don't think it would have to be professional, but I'm thinking, quite honestly, if it's a township, the town looks shaky, we would use a try that. But if it looks shaky, part of me goes, oh, look at this, it's a little town, put this together, kind of idea. But we would make it, you know, station. But I'm just saying, I think we have the technology for that, if that's something to do. But right now, I think if we can do any kind of infographic to get out there, especially for this, whether unless there's some ideas, but how many ideas of things we would want to see on that.
And one of the sites that you sent, Rob, had it, it was pretty detailed.
I think that was a 3-pager, the white and blue
Yeah.
one.
I think maybe we can strive for one page is what I usually like to get to it. But
Do you know who's that?
I don't recall.
well, I don't recall either. But I mean, I think that's sort of what we're going for, right? It's something. You know, just to show the overall process.
And, you know, I know all the time, it doesn't matter whether it's social media, I heard it this morning. It's like, what's the actual things that are, what are these actual buildings, what are these actual? Like, oh, the bank's up, but now we're looking at Popeyes and something else, and people are so like desperately curious for. That information, I know it's not the township's responsibility, it belongs to the individual developers, but like. That's what everybody's craving, what is this gonna turn into, what is happening here, like, how can I understand this?
And I think as soon as for something that might lead to that, we say it might not be the town's responsibility, which I agree. It's not, however, one way that it could happen, and we can figure out how, is for example, Burger King was, you know, we all found out officially because they were required to bring us to the board, just show us their design. And that was acknowledged, but that was a part of our meeting, so that makes it into a highlight. In an AI, that's, you know, that's one way that we don't have to do anything, but we're getting that information out there, so that's the benefit of that too. But I agree, that's something that is important, then whether down the line we categorize that, that's okay, here's things that are recently developing, we're aware of.
But to Grace's point too, that which you stated that the township doesn't have any say in what fixed food restaurant is going to be.
We don't know sometimes, I've heard, it doesn't until.
But I think there's that perception out there that
Right.
the township knows and is rooting the Burger King over.
I will say, just a funny incident, I think we have, anecdote, I was like, I can't remember this word. I received a phone call the other week, and someone asked if I could put a Panera bread in. I was like, oh, you know, I wish I really could. But I can do the Panera, so. I would if I could, though.
So. These are all great ideas, I guess, and we don't wanna, again, we don't wanna overload township, and we are throwing these lots of right, which is great, I'm excited about that, so I guess the next step. And please, anybody else has any, but if anybody has anything else they'd like to continue to add to this, my suggestion would be, we need to. Feedback to Grace. Grace don't feel like we're like, hey, here, do, but it's more like, then you have that information. When you're ready to explore the best way to do it, and I know as you know, we want to get this out, but whatever works best for you. I think that might be the best course of action right now. Everybody kind of agree on that? And I'm excited to see yours goes, again, thank you, Eric, for the suggestion, that's everybody's contributions, it's a great way to keep people simply informed. When it's groups. Moving on, the promoting existing proposed open space, I'm glad you brought this up, I sort of had some dialogue this morning, and reached out to some supervisors as well. As you may have known, what the township has agreed to a purchase or sale, a lot of land, 65 acres, which is wonderful. We feel at the same time, we want to get the input from the public. And particularly, let's just reach out here, so there would be, there's going to be a vote. Ideally, at the next primary, where residents of Lower Stafford will have the opportunity to vote to approve an open space tax. And what that is it comes to literally, I think, under $17, or it was $203 for the average taxpayer. So it'll be under $17 a month. Unlike a different tax where is it going, we don't know how to distribute it. This is a specific tax, and it is a tax, but it is a specific fee that the money will go to. Similarly for the, the money goes strictly to, we have money that goes, this is the library, we have a fee collected village that goes strictly to that. This would go strictly to open space. And the purpose would be for us to maintain open spaces, money could be used to fix trails and improve our parks, also help us to acquire the open space that we have. There's backup plans as well, but ideally this is really what we want to push to make it happen. And additionally, we have more money to possibly buy other open space. Okay, the current board, I know the current board feels very in favor of promoting yes to the township, because when it comes to a vote, it's going to say somehow on there, it sounds really good when you say, would you like more open space? Or would you like a tax? Unfortunately, it's going to be hard to combine that. And what we want to do, and what the board kind of gave, said the communications committee may help play a part, is to promote the board's opinion that yes, we should, the townships feel is that is better is a good move for the township. Some of the things that we can also tell people, not to hop on and one mention I was at the Harley's Market, we had a lot of feedback and a lot of questions as well. So pretty much all positive fire. Anybody who asked, hey, I don't want that, hey, that, I had a discussion with them. I get that, because I also explained, as somebody said in the meeting here, people can opt out, well, not people, but it could always be put forward to another vote for the township to opt out down the line. Township and the residents felt that way as well. So that's, I don't want to write too much more. I think that sums up the situation. The township is in favor, that we feel is a good direction, is the direction we want to go to have this opportunity. I understand $17 or $17 a month. We want to make sure people know, okay, I'll pay it because that means I'm pumping gas and now I see the fields, I know that we can improve our paths and stuff like that much easier. So we want to make sure that residents understand what's going on. They're not getting misinformation. You're getting this information as to the facts, as we said, okay, here's the process. Here's what you're voting on. And make sure they're informed when they go to that poll. We're not going to tell people what to vote for, but we are going to tell them why we feel it's very beneficial and encouraged. I think that kind of sums that up there. I can take any questions and please, if anybody has any comments.
So how do we do, message already out there, so people are pretty well know that's going to happen.
I think they know that we're buying land, but nobody knows how. A lot of, that's, but I can't speak for what people know, yes.
So how are we going to promote the $17 a month tax in addition to buying this thing?
And again, the official one, I think is quarter or 0.25, yes, just so everybody's aware, so, but it comes to the average, $203 for the average taxpayer a year. And, that's the way it could be broken down to everybody, so that's just one way of looking at it, but I want to be clear, it could be different.
And this is
different people.
This is an earning.
Yes, it's the earned. So, and
Can I ask, when was the last time So the ambulance fund list, the library millage list. Those are part of property tax, or are they also earning?
Grace, you know, and don't want to do the wrong.
Okay,
I
no,
feel
that's
that,
fine.
but I'm not sure.
I think those are- If I have those questions, others have those questions. Like, when was the last time that something like this went up the ballot? Are you talking about informing people?
Yeah.
You know, from 10, you know, they may not have seen it in 10 years, and it'll be their first experience with it in the township.
I don't personally recall.
I know that. Oh, there's a few members of our staff who haven't been around since the last referendum. A referendum was put in place for something of, like what you're mentioning, so. It's probably been 12 years at least.
As I said, I don't think there's been one since I've been, so it certainly has to be before I don't recall one in the 9 years that I've been.
I've voted years since I was 18, but I don't remember specifically or how it was related. Or, you know, I feel like I would have done research at the time, but I don't remember how I received that information.
I've been here for 33 years and I'm.
But the one thing we can do, as you say that about too, is there are, and part of the things that we've had discussions when, you know, this DIA happens work, there are other townships. That have this implemented already. And, you know, quite honestly, for me personally, I didn't never even heard of it until, as you mentioned earlier, there were a lot of people in here when I was nationwide tracks and post office, so it was before I was supervisor in that capacity, but people there were saying, hey, we want to buy it, what about, and they were naming. I remember somebody standing up, naming all the function, possible boroughs and townships that had a similar referendum passed that would allow open space purchases and open space discussions. So. Yeah, I think Terry, what you said too, I think it's important that we, you know, do emphasize what is happening. You know, so nobody gets the wrong idea, because as soon as somebody might have a negative opinion of this, which believe this is what we want discussion, you know, okay, why do you feel this way, here's why you feel this way, I think that's how we can all figure it out. But a different opinion, I should say, opinion was not compatible, that they may, I mean, this was pretty down the lane, you know, I heard this, the next thing, you know, that's, well, this is the most awful thing they could ever do, you know, why would they even think of this? And we just want to make sure the facts are out there throughout the entire time. Which could come down to, you know, Harry's infograph, or, you know, I mean, the AI going out there, that might be one way that we're already improving that. Yes, please.
Well, I will say, something we're excited about is that we'll be working with Natural Lands Trust. And
Yes.
they're a nonprofit that focuses on saving open space, in Pennsylvania. And we will bring them on for this process, and they're going to help us make FAQ sheets, where they're going to organize a resident committee. They'll host at least 4 workshop sessions for residents to come, and they're gonna, you know, have expert staffs come in to answer any questions that residents have, so. We feel really confident, and they feel really confident that. And they've done such in the past where. They can help us get the word out. We will have to get the word to the residents that they will be there and as a resource. So. But they will help us with the FAQ sheets, the presentations, wording a referendum that is straight factual, but gives people the idea of what's really happening. That makes any sense.
No, I'm glad you brought that up. I actually so happen to have, Grace was here this morning as well. So I think about like 5 o'clock this morning for a breakdown that I did of this. Specifically, I was gonna ask some questions, but again, everything worked out well. But if I may, just specifically, what they're gonna do with public engagement strategies, prepare informational outreach to landowners regarding the referendum, possible follow-up meetings to address landowners' specific concerns before or after the referendum, and commit to flexible services for transaction assistance tailored based on the township's need. So they are looking to And again, some of the things, if the referendum passed, it is still system of information, that's our problem. But there will be public consensus, here we go. Host public meetings to educate residents on the open space network and gain support for the referendum. Participate in board of supervisor meetings to introduce the referendum topic and answer questions. There will be 4 meetings, including guest speakers, to discuss conservation benefits. That's kind of a quick summary I wrote down of that as well. So I'm really glad you brought that up because from the mind there, I was putting this, but perhaps we should, I don't know, I don't want to say, oh, that counts as a meeting, but at least maybe we should, a discussion or invite them to a meeting, or at least let them know that we are here to help with that as well, in any way that they would suggest due to other townships things as well. Thank you for mentioning. If anybody has any other questions, I did put down this.
We should get the word out through all the channels we've developed in this past few years
Exactly,
of
yes.
communication. I mean, we should use every channel. Possible.
And that was kind of the whole, right on that during our meeting, the board kind of said, hey, I don't have that communications committee, we said these in our executive discussions, prior to agreeing, okay, let's make this move. How are we gonna do this? We have the communications committee, and Steve already has, I'm pretty sure we'd be willing to push it, but I think, we could play a pretty important part in this as well. Any other questions about that or the natural lands?
No, I think absolutely excellent to have an actual
Yeah, I 100%.
superb organization.
They've been active since 1953. And they're in the things right now. Include land use planning, park and trail planning, public engagement. That's the one I highlighted, so that's very.
Most importantly, they're very excited about this project. They haven't worked on a project this large in a very long time, so they're very enthusiastic.
But they all have on that.
Yeah,
It's true.
so- Can't ask for anything else,
All right, any other comments regarding this? And again, I think this will develop as we move on. I'm definitely glad you added it, Rob, I was planning for you that as well. And I think it's, again, it will be, okay, next month things might change a little bit, maybe they'll say, okay, here's something to go, but I'm looking forward to just kind of being prepared for this and. True. Any other?
Yeah, it was very interesting when it came up because I wasn't expecting to see the presentation as it was in the board meeting. So one of the things that came out of it was how the assessment was done by populating this property map with the amount of residential and commercial space that would fit it.
Yes.
And so my biggest concern, especially when I saw that at the meeting, but subsequent to that, is like, people would get the wrong impression, and I think even in that meeting, there were a couple like, oh, why did you put all these buildings and parking lots on this space? And it's like, no, you have to understand, you have to do alternatives planning, and alternatives planning is a very difficult thing to present to people as a concept. Like, no, we have this goal, but we had to explore these other things so that we knew how much it was worth, what was a reasonable thing to offer, and how those things. I think those experts at Natural Lands are going to do this, but as soon as I saw that, I was like, these are going to be the questions that people are going to ask. Like, why does it cost this much? What led everybody to this? Like, what was the history of it? Just gotta be ready to talk about that. The other thing. See if I can remember. Oh, I was shocked at how much media came out so quickly, because I think it was just kind of off the cuff comment at the end of the supervisors meeting. And I don't remember which seat it was. Somebody said, oh yeah, we're definitely gonna get the word out. And I was like, oh, that means, a couple of months, we'll start seeing something. And it was like, immediately, my feed from so many directions was just filled with information about this. Like, press releases, I guess, went out because a bunch of the local news picked it up and did little articles about it. But yeah, the rapidity and repetition with which it got into like all of my social feeds was I didn't know we're capable of that. Like getting that much out that quickly.
And you know, these are great things, the one thing that adds to that, I'm glad you mentioned back to, back to what it looks like, if, anybody did see, there is a presentation online, that we had at our meeting. There was a display of what could be developed with, you know, overdevelopment on that, and so it's a lot of investment, very substantial, over 300 properties. However, I did say a few times during the YouTube meeting, anybody watching, please be advised, this is not how it is. Despite that, at the Harleysville market, one of our officers asked me why we were purchasing all that, putting all that stuff there, not purchasing the land. And I said, whoa, and I explained to the officer, no, and I'm like, are you serious? I was like, that's what I thought. So you're right, some people don't know. Now, this was very fresh news, so nobody really knew. Probably it wasn't going
Everybody
everybody.
was taking it in.
Exactly, for, you know, and I didn't touch on it because people were walking by and they were teased about it, however, it could have been people coming up and just giving that. We're having different conversations, but it is, but I am glad.
I agree, unless you're familiar with alternatives,
It's that.
It's, I had to explain it, you know, to a few friends when they saw it, because they didn't quite understand what we're looking at. And so that's gonna be a hurdle, you know, a hurdle to get over. And maybe we don't focus discussion so much on what it could have looked like, as much as what it's gonna be and what the benefits are. And, you know, we've heard it even in this meeting, I think there's a strong current in the borough, in the township, right? Of a desire to protect the open space. So I think it can be, you know, it can be an easier message.
Yeah.
To get out than not, especially the EITC was also something that I needed to explain, people weren't quite understanding that. But, you know, these are the hurdles that we'll have to get over, but I think, the message of the township being serious about it being open space, and this is how we do it in the EITC. So then EIT, sorry. And then, yeah, I got that on my mind for something else, but for the EIT. And then, you know, the outcome of that being a space like that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. The conversation I had with someone in the market who right away came to me and said it was a big mistake. They ended up walking, okay, and my rationale was kind of what you said. It's like, look, I grew up here, you might have lived here your whole life, you might be living here, but there's a reason you came here for that kind of character, that feel. And, you know, that's part of our main structure, you're gonna go by that. This is discussions of the board as well, doing this, it's important to the character. And I told them, and I got back, well, it's disappointing, that's what I said, I agree. Me, I wanna pay for this service or that service, you know, streaming service, I can look at it that way, for me, it's a fee on what we do. Okay, I didn't wanna pay an extra $20, but I'm gonna do it because this isn't good. I wanna maintain that, you know, that gentleman walked away saying, actually, I didn't take it that way. Who knows, but it's interesting, and everybody, we wanna hear people, that's what we encourage. Great conversations on this. Everybody. Good point with that too, because I did want to share that story, I forgot about that. Why would we do that? I don't want to do that. There's another thing that when people say, and that was another conversation, why is it so much money? So they said, you're telling me, because I don't live that far, that my limit is this, like, well, you know, I don't know how many acres that person had, but what the thing is that somebody could make by, you know, redoing, developing a whole area, obviously. Somebody's house might not have the same value because they might be able to put stuff on that. These are things that people, I never heard about. And if you really think about it, then it is, but you might not know about. Great conversation with this. I look forward to seeing what we do, how we contribute with this, hearing what the Metro has to say about. Very good. Thank you, Grace.
Thank you.
Any other comments on the promoting this existing open space? I do a couple, well, thank you, we'll move on from that. Before we move on to closing, a couple updates. I jumped around with Carlos for market, I pretty much did update that. I know, we established it this morning's meeting, things went very well. Always kudos to our officers who, we had 0 incidents, everything, people were pretty happy about. And as a whole, we think it might be something that might be done again in the future. I know, I talked to firefighters that day, there were a lot more traffic, they felt in typical open houses, it was for a while, so that's good. The weather was good, that could have been a factor as well, but I think a lot of, I don't know the exact amount of people I went through, you know.
I don't,
I know there was a lot, it was interesting, it was a busy day, but it was good, it was a very good day. The other thing I wanted to update is the ordinance regarding our communications committee. That is something that should be on the agenda, possibly next month. So, just talking to, one of my, talking to Joe and Chris, I was about that, we want to get that on there. So we can announce that and move forward with that, that would be adding the, sorry, so I was an alternate, but not an alternate, yes, associate, I was not alternate, thank you, associate members. So hopefully, in timing with that, we can reach out to anybody who reached out, want to be a member of the communications community. We would have to announce it first, so the meeting was being announced that, but that's pretty consideration as well.
Was there a meeting requirement for associate members?
That's what,
Now that we.
now we have to.
We could staff it.
I would think it would be,
Want to change.
sorry, no, I would think it would be standard to what a member might be, but that's something that could be interpreted.
Thinking about interweaving with some sort of junior stewardship. That would be tough for that.
Okay, yeah.
That would be good, because then you get, people ways of communicating.
It's exactly what I that is true, there's so many different ways of getting messages out there. Clearly, the ones we're not hitting are the ones that we know about right now, so that's the catch as well, but. And hopefully, they use multiple ones and over use this too. Very good, anybody want to add anything else? Is there?
I would revisit the new residents newsletter, we've done that in a while. Not the newsletter, the letters we send out to new residents,
Yes.
we've done that. Remember how long, so.
I think that's worth putting on, I know John had a lot of information on it to find who we were, I think. We discussed that, I know we only discussed it for whatever month that was, we decided to send that new letter out in the newsletter.
Right.
Could be right, but then we were going to.
Newsletters, yeah, until spring, or they say.
Newsletter, today's newsletter did go out.
Oh, did it?
Yes, I got it today. I was actually, most of my parents saw theirs going over.
Okay,
That's great. That's a good point. I think it's worth adding to next month, kind of see where they are there.
but even though the newsletter did go out, I know someone that moved in April. Should have gotten the newsletter in June, never did, and she had no way. I was telling her about like signing up for it, and she was like, well, how do I do that? And she's very sophisticated when it comes to like media. I'm like, oh, you can on the website. But somehow she fell through the cracks and didn't, well, they fell through the cracks, who else's fault?
Right, that's worthwhile. I think I should definitely put that on this month's agenda. I really agree with that. Very good. One more thing I wanted to add on top of that with our others market, not to go too far off, but again, I forgot, I got distracted. Funny stories, but I did tell people, hi, just so you know, there's just this QR codes and the website address. A lot of people immediately say, oh yeah, we get all that. And it was, let me talk a little bit about this, realize, oh no, I didn't get that. I didn't know you had, oh, Instagram, wow, so people have to kind of look into it, but a lot of people, it's just something to note, they see the newsletter, get the newsletter, that's great. But constant contact, there are a lot of people treated by that. I just simply told them, any little thing like this, if we close the road, we send the email, I had no idea, so some people did get to that, so. Curious to see if we had an influx that day, actually, we had quite a few to buy.
there's certainly been an influx within the past 2 or 3 months, I would say. I did not look at the results for since that past market, but definitely since we've been to the market, there are a lot of.
Wonderful. Thank you for everybody's help for that as well. Any other questions? Thank you, sorry, good point, but that's the agenda. I think, for next week, we definitely go to that. Hopefully, John and I will have your work, getting those letters out as well. And any new updates clearly with promoting townships. And, you know, just promoting the fact that there is a vote that we vote, that's really what we need to let people know, that there's all the information. We're pretty confident that most people will feel that's something that is worth investing in. Anything else?
Question for agendas and moving forward, how does everybody feel about after the call for public discussion? Maybe we can arrange some of these regular things like the market, which is gonna happen every month, we're gonna be here every month. Kind of have just a read back instead of making them
Yeah.
agenda items and old and new business, because I don't think it really fits into the pattern. Right, got a couple of things that are coming up. I think we can put on the, I don't know what'll fill that yet, but certainly like a discussion of the market, a discussion of newsletter signups. You know, status updates for those things, if everybody's fine with that, we can put it together that way for the next time.
Fine.
Okay.
And if you're not familiar, it's almost a that actually the board meetings as well as like one, we give many updates throughout, so it's a great thing, because it was, I didn't, same thing, I was like, okay, Carlisle market, if I update on this. It gets to be too much on me.
And I say that because I think the last meeting where you weren't here, we had said. Harleysville market kind of a settled thing, like you guys are into a rhythm, they're, you know, they're just showing up, like. We don't need to make it an item of business, but we can make it an item of status update.
I think that's very cool.
Okay,
Markets will pause in after December from just January to May, I believe. They just take a little hiatus while it's cold out, and there's no market in November either, so we'll be back in December for the holiday market.
Speaking of that, just we do motion to adjourn, the next meeting will be, thank you, Grace, on 19th of November, is, we're doing, I know I'm okay with having all our meetings in November, I don't want them to be in December, I just want to check now, just for the holidays, just for, it'll be the 17th of December. And again, this is something that right now we are scheduled to be those, I'm not. That's not a problem, but I do know the planning commission always does it joint November, December, just to kind of be cautious of the holidays, so especially as we go into our next year, when we work doing, at least checking when December is. We wouldn't want it to be the holidays as somebody events. And again, if now I don't know about anybody else, looks like I have some concerts on that Tuesday, so you know, fortunately, but if there's any problems, feel free to let us know. So it will be here on our next. So again, the next meeting is November 19th here on Zoom, 7:30. One more time, anything else? Do we have any motions to adjourn? Second, thank you, all in favor? Aye. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a great evening.